My name's Chris and I work within the revenue assurance function of SuperTel, a mobile virtual network operator. One of my colleagues has sent me over the first draft of this month's report pack, suggested I could help him out with some of the problems in there. So I'm just going to open this up from within our data visualization service here so that we can go and investigate this and see how I can help. So let me first start off by putting this into presentation mode so I can flick through what we found so far. This is currently looking at it for up to February, so we've excluded the latest month's data in this, just so we can focus in on the recent time periods. So if I have a look at where we are to start with, I can see there's clearly, we've had good performance on the revenue up most of last summer, and then there's a problem that occurred around about August time from the looks of it, which has flattened off this revenue curve, which is clearly going to be impacting our ability to achieve our targets. So let's have a look and see where this may be coming from. So if this is broken down now by the different plans that we offer. So we can see here the 4G data plan across the top here is the one that's been performing about the best. But there's, again, it's flattened off overall in this time frame, and actually quite a bit of variability there that I might want to investigate and see what's happening. So let's go and see where this may be coming from. Interestingly, as an MVNO, we've got most of our customers are prepaid, and they either will be buying pre-purchasing their minutes via vouchers they'll buy from stores, using online top-ups, or actually we've been encouraging people to move towards this auto top-up approach. And we recently put in a new transaction processing fulfillment system to support this, and that seems to be causing a problem here. There's been a huge drop-off in that over the last few months that seems to be related. So I can potentially have a look at this a little bit further and see how might this be impacting what's going on. So if we filter down on this auto top-up transaction type, and then we go back to have a look at those plans, the performance across all the different plans that are offered, this top plan, the UK 4G data plan, is the one that seems to be really being hit the strongest by this potential problem. So this is definitely worth investigating a little bit more. I think I know where I can go to have a look at that. So here we go. My colleagues suggested actually if I start here, and has already got the same idea as myself actually, that we could bring in some of the latest transactions data from the new fulfillment system if we can understand what's actually happening. So let me go out of presentation mode so I can go back into the design view, and from here I've got a really easy to use environment where I can go and bring in some new data. So I've got my MVNO revenue figures there at the moment. If I go to add in a new data source, here I can go and look at what's there already, or actually create a new data source. That may either be taken from one of our SaaS applications or existing Oracle apps that we might use. I could go and get it directly from the underlying database tables if I've got access to them as well. I could write a query to do that. But actually I can do an extract directly from that transaction system to bring it in as a file. So let me go and bring in that particular data right now. I've got the SuperTel transactions record here. This is actually matching straight away that some of the fields in this are the same as the fields in the existing data sets. We've got dates, months, plans, transaction types, so we can see the auto top-up there, for example. We've also got event code, which is unique to this particular data set. That's specific to transactions, and then some other numerical information about those transactions as well. So I'll add this to my project. So I've got a second data set here that's already been directly linked with my first one without me doing anything particularly to make that happen. Let me bring in and see how the trend compare for these particular transactions by month, by plan, so how this compares to the data from the first data set that we have up above it. So I bring this information in. That's decided to do it as a stacked bar horizontally. Let me change this to a vertical chart so that I can see how these compare. Now we've got them lined up by time. I'll actually take a look. Let's see our biggest 4G UK plan, as that's trended over time. I can see that's highlighted straight away with the brushing in this data set underneath, that the actual numbers of transactions are not that bad. It seems like we're getting the right volume coming through, but there's something that's potentially impacting the performance. Or actually, this is what I need to do clearly. I need to filter down here and have a look specifically at the auto top-ups that we were focusing on before. So let me bring that in and apply this across all that data. So let's have a look. We can see that drop off again in the top. But actually, so in the bottom, interestingly, there's a potential problem there. suggesting that I need to review the filter settings, probably because that auto top-up value isn't correctly found within the transactional data that I brought in. So let me go and investigate that, because I didn't really sort of look at it in too much detail when I brought it in. I just let it try and do its things automatically. Let me see if I can influence that a little bit and suggest how it should link these two data sets together. So if I focus on the SuperTel transactions data, what I can see straight away, actually, if I look at that transaction type, I see the problem is that we've got an identifier followed by the description field that came from the first set. Now the good thing is I can do some transformations on here quite easily, so I can split that data using a split on that custom tilde sign that was separating those as you can see in the screen above. So if I run that split, that'll create me a couple of new attributes that I can use from the second data set without actually changing the file itself. And I can quite easily go and hide those ones that I don't need. I don't particularly need to see the numerical identifier. I'm just interested in that item that's used to link to the first file itself. So having done that, what I can then do is tell the system basically that it shouldn't join on the first that it worked out. I'm going to set and influence it to join on the new split field that I've just created. And that's pretty easy to do. So having done that, I should hopefully be able to go back into my view in the design mode and then see what happens if I now try and filter both of those data sets off auto top-up. So that's good. I can see I've actually got the data values underneath, and still actually it's showing me that, again, the volume of transactions is not the problem here. So it's probably something to do with the types of events. Let's see what else other data we have here. Let's have a look at the event code on here, see if I can use that to influence what I'm looking at here. So if I drag and drop that over my report below, and eventually I can see straight away we've got successful transactions happening and an overall increase in the volume. But there's this set of transactions here around card expiry. Let's have a look at those. Brushing now shows me straight away that those card expiry are to do with this new fulfillment system that I've got to support this 4G data plan. So that is something we can clearly look at and try to understand what's happening. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to save myself another bookmark in this system. I'm effectively going to allow us to basically create a new bookmark. I can come to here, I can edit this, I can create a description here such that we notify customers when their card's about to expire. It's one thing I can do straight away. Something else that I notice is that we've actually got a new item here, which is a security check problem. Now that is clearly worth looking at. In fact, I'm going to colour this to make it stand out. So I can colour this bright red so that we can look at this in the data in a bit more detail. Now, what I'd like to do, I think, is see, why we got these security issues happening. I wonder if there's something that I can look at to understand the distribution of this data across these two data sets. So if I actually take the revenue, the transactions, and the plan and the event code and bring these together on one view, what does this show me? So if we have a look at this, let's see straight away the item I've had selected, this failed security check, that's for one of those plans. That's a little bit out on its own there, so I think I'd be interested to see how that compares as a ratio if we look at the average transaction value. We can do that by effectively doing a revenue divided by the number of transactions, and that should be something that I can work from there. If I just double click to bring that onto my report, I've put it on this selected visualization. So I've got a bit of a high level there. Let me swap these around so I can see if there's any particular outliers there. Now that's pretty clear. This failed security check is causing an issue. And in fact, if I zoom in, we can see from the brushing again that those failed security items are linked to declining revenue on an international plan. So what I think I'd like to do is, again, add another indicator on this, suggesting what might be going on. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to add an insight to this. I'm going to edit that to include the description of what's causing the problem. And I'm also going to include a little indicator on here just to illustrate that there's something potentially going wrong here. So let me drag and drop an image off of this to point my colleague to where this problem is potentially going to be. So I'm going to quickly go and find this in my most recent files. I've got a little indicator here that I can drop onto that straight away to see what's actually happening. So that's interesting. I can just go and quickly update my views. This is now going to be as part of my presentation mode, so that I can then save this and send it over to my colleagues, and they can go and investigate the potential revenue leakage and fraud, and also have a look at the fact that the transaction processing system probably needs to be adjusted so that we can tell customers when their cards are due to expire. Thanks very much.